I am the consciousness in all life forms. That is the spirit of Lectern. Lectern is a platform that intends to drive meaningful conversations. Lectern is a platform where we discuss, disseminate, and deliberate on the questions of our times. So good afternoon everybody. A very warm welcome to Lectern. I am Jiva and this is brought to you from the Team Book Stockist. Empowerment through empathy, that was what Tarana Burke had in her mind when she first began with the Me Too movement as early as 2006. But after Aliza Milano gave the movement a new lease of life in October 2017, the movement has evolved across geographies over time and it has taken various forms. The way each of the society has reacted to these changes is different. As in India, there have been a lot of investors and founders of the startup community that have been named, which makes it imperative for us to take up this subject and discuss it in detail. And that is why we have four eminent panelists here to talk about the subject if the Me Too movement is an impediment to the startup ecosystem. Our first panelist today is a business associate with Dunzo. She has adorned several hats with the organization. She has seen the organization grow from 10 members to 300 members. So give a hearty welcome to her. Our next panelist is a very seasoned HR professional with an MNC. His specialization is talent acquisition and branding. He's also a public speaker and a blogger. A very warm welcome to Arun Babu. Our third panelist is Geeta Lakshmi. She is the VP of Atlas Logistics. She is one of the very few women leaders from the mid-90s in the logistics arena, which is usually male-dominated. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. I must mention she was named the Women of the Year 2014 by GCC. Our final panelist is an evangelist at heart who has been associated with a number of startups. It's been a 7-year-long journey for him with entrepreneurship, but currently he is associated with the Namak store and cafe, which operates like a micro mall. A very warm welcome to Dabshi Chakravarti. Thank you everyone for coming here today. Before we move on to your opening statement, there are a few points that I want to put in and then we'll take the discussion from there. So to make your opening statement, you will have 3 minutes each and then we'll take it on from there. So these are my thoughts about the situation in the Me Too environment, in the startup environment. So the first one is one ship at the company's reputation could kill the startup even before it can start. Second, the primary focus of a startup is about sustaining and growth. They probably do not have enough resource and time to even bother about diversity, inclusion, gender neutrality and things. And the third, even if there is a sexual harassment committee and they do spend time on that, and if it happens to be a senior member who is one of the key players of this organization, taking an action against them would mean that they have to lose out on the intelligence capital of that company, which might send the company tumbling down, like it has happened in India with a lot of organizations. The third one is the accuser and the accused both might be labeled as troublemakers, bringing them problems in their professional lives later on. And the final part is where a study says how companies run by men are funded 16 times more than the companies that are run by women. So this is another area where women are sidelined when it comes to funding. So these are the various points that I see are impacts to the startup environment because of the Me Too movement. So we'll start with your opening statement concerning these ideas. We'll start with Monica first.
Thank you, Jiva, for enlisting all those points. I would largely want to speak from my experience because I don't think I can validate from anything else that I've read, because these are such sensitive issues that one must realize that there will always be two sides to it, or maybe more than two sides to it, right? So, sort of like a disclaimer in a sense, I will only be talking out of my own experience. So first thing, when you were talking about the whole reputation aspect of a startup, here's my take on it. Either you're such a small startup that even if something happens, it becomes irrelevant, or if you are big enough, then I think the paparazzi or the media would make news of anything and everything anyway. So here I think largely the onus is on how the startup and the leadership would want to sort of take this forward and deal with the situation. And I would want to talk about how they could sort of, I would sort of want to bring out a sense of morality or a consciousness. I think that should be highest, and not really bothering about their reputation or how they're looking for like an outsider. Because you can have like a swanky building and nice logo and all of that, but if this is what's going on inside, then it will the skeleton will come out of the closet eventually. And talking about reputation, either you're irrelevant for media or you're so relevant that anything and everything will become this, right? That's one thing that I want to talk about, reputation. Second thing that you mentioned was about sustenance. So in my experience, we are constantly in the drill, on the go, that we genuinely would not have time to breathe. And having said that, that is not an excuse for you to sort of say that, oh, ho gaya, chal raha hai. I don't think that should happen, right? It's a very short-term and myopic way of looking at it, not a long-term. So if you, why are you starting out? Because you have this vision, you have this goal, you want to be one of the major companies that impacts so many people on so many levels. And if you're going to be restricted with myopic short-term decisions, then your outcome will also be patchy or half-baked, right? So that is like, I would want to go to the other three, but I will not take time from the others. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Monica and Jiva. I would want to start off by saying that I want to stress upon three aspects, largely in line with what you said, Jiva. One is importance of the Me Too movement. Second is the impact it has on the startup ecosystem. And third, what the approach should be or could be. To begin with, like you rightly said, Tarana Burke, who started up this movement in the US, and then Alyssa Milano, who took to Hollywood and then cascaded it to the world over. One person whom I would want to mention with equal respect and acknowledgement is Bhavri Devi from Rajasthan in India, who approached the Supreme Court in spite of her life-threatening situations and still paved way to the Vishakha guidelines. And very recently, Tanushree Datta, who brought it to Bollywood and thus helped make it a talking point in the Indian society as well. The importance lies in the fact that if you looked at the emergence of a pattern, mostly the people who are accused belong to the past generation, people who joined the workforce about 20 or 25 years back. I'm not saying that today it doesn't happen, it does, sadly it does happen today also, but more accusations came from people of that time. And the reason, I think, was because they thought they could get away with doing such horrible things, and they will not be held accountable. Whereas today, the awareness is much more. So the Me Too movement is acting as a fodder and helping that awareness grow. That is about the importance. Second, about the impact. There are very real world consequences of this movement, especially in the startup ecosystem. Reason being, like Monica and you were rightly saying, their initial urge is to sustain and thrive and to succeed, like any other business organization should. But if that is one, so the startups could react or respond. If they were to react in a very myopic, short-sighted way, they could stop hiring women altogether and think that since there are no women, there is no issue of harassment at all. That would be a very myopic decision because that will affect their diversity, the enrichment of their ideas and their perspectives will come down. And any organization, diversity is important, especially for a startup, where they need ideas, where they need movements. A response, informed response would be where they hire more women actively to ensure that they have a fruitful ecosystem so that these things will not happen. The third and final, the impact or the need for governance. Many a time in their haste to succeed or get that funding, they think that governance is a nice to have aspect, which is very untrue. Governance is a must have aspect. I'll stop there and I will request you that.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you all. Thank you, Shiva. It's a topic which we are talking about is a very sensitive topic and social, cultural topic, which is the Me Too movement, #Me Too movement. Well, the movement of women asking for respect in society, especially in the workforce, is not, we have a lot to do. The startup has a lot to really support the system in terms of moving forward in an economy like ours. We are already sending a very wrong signal if we say that this is going to be an hindrance to employ women in an organization. Yes, the movement across, this is one movement which cannot be like a French Revolution or any kind of revolution which can be just written in history. Because this revolution is very much connected to the medias where people can post their outrageous outrageous at what go through. And in India, not only in India, there's one movement where we can see that the sisterhood, they call the sisterhood, and they're all connecting to each other to bring up the stories of 10 years and 20 years past. They dig deep. Everybody has for a moment stopped to think, as a woman, did I go through 25 years in the same organization? Right? It's the same organization that I worked for, and I've traveled across with the men in business, and then we have conferences that is like 200 men, 1 women. I mean, you know how to behave in an environment such like that. Go back to your place and start doing reports if it's the situations. Okay, coming back, this movement may not die as somebody might think that this movement, I totally support Me Too movement. It is only going, it cannot clean up the system in general completely, but to an extent it will share the working culture. It will change the working culture and habit that we respect each other in a professional manner. The men have to behave in their way, women have to behave in their way, and it's all about the business. And there's a larger vision because you want to take the company forward. And the competition is so high, you have visions, and it all percolates from the top. How the top management is going to percolate to the down, and the visions are spread across. So sending the wrong signals is, I think, I'm not only supporting people, or for that matter startups saying that they're not going to hire women. I think that's a very wrong signal for an economy like ours. We are highly taxpayers as well in an economy which is very important that women also pay tax, employ. So my message would be to please engage with the women workforce.
Thank you everybody. It is my privilege to be here discussing a very sensitive issue. I would like to two broad points. One is what I feel about this issue more from a global perspective, and secondly what I have encountered in my life, in my professional life. So the first point, if I have to say, I think it's more of a human issue. It's not about hiring women in an organization. I think an equal part of men have also gone through similar ordeal like this, and I firmly believe that it is starting to question the basic premises of our social structure. If this, if we are able to give teeth to this movement, which goes beyond just social media, which goes beyond discussions, it actually goes into action against these people who have actually victimized the other people. It will actually have a fundamental change in our social structure, the way we live, the way we interact, the way we talk, the way we hire. Hiring becomes a part of it, the way we operate our businesses, the way we interact with our customers, the way we grow, way we, what we teach our children, how our children grows up. So I think it is going to have a huge impact, positive impact according to me, in a larger perspective of our society. This is my opinion, and I feel that we should not feel ashamed of coming out with any of our personal experiences like this, and make it as public as possible, and make it as, we should be as vocal as possible about it. So this was my perspective on more on a global, we as a fundamental that differentiate us as human beings versus the rest of the species on this earth. The second thing about what I've encountered in my workspace, so I have worked with huge factories, apparel making factories in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, especially in the Southeast Asian countries, where the majority of the workforce are women, and they are all the bottom of the pyramid, women who are actually facing this issue day in and day out. Any issue which used to get highlighted used to be tackled very clinically. Whoever be in that hierarchy, whether it's a supervisor, whether it's a line manager, there used to be certain policies, and people used to be extremely clinical about, decisive about these things. Nobody used to, so that's what I've seen. And I do the same thing with my company. I also have a small factory, I run a retail store, there are multiple women who are hired and associated. So I think the more decisive we are regarding these things, things will be streamlined.
Thank you for all those thoughts. So in Lectern, we have Devashish and Monica coming from a startup area, and Geeta and Arun are from the conventional industries. So they don't complement each other. So the next round, we are opening to a discussion where they are going to cross-question each other based on whatever thoughts have been shared. So you'll have 2 minutes each to answer the question. So we'll open the forum, anyone can ask the other person a question. So fire away.
So I would like to actually ask a question to Devashish. So I totally agree with how you said that it has to be a decisive way of dealing with this, right? But of late, or rather the whole Me Too movement sort of became largely a social media event in a sense. So I would love to hear your views on where is the decisiveness here, or what do you think should, I mean, how can we make this more decisive, if I can put it that way?
So I feel there's a fundamental difference between what we get to hear and what actually is. There's a lot of media play into this entire game, which gets highlighted to us as common people what might have happened with some of those big startups, or probably known people or celebrities for that matter. The reality could have been something little different. So media would like to sensationalize that the CEO of $16 billion business is stuck because of this. So what is the reality behind that? So I think the clinicalness or decisiveness comes actually at a reality level, not at a media level, really speaking. So media will typically be trying to bring it up in a different way, and what really happens, I think the results show. I mean, what happened to all the, I don't want to name any specific people, but people actually stepping up and saying that I did it, there's a lot of action which has happened on the background, and what we have seen is only a couple of headings and a few things. So I think the decisiveness comes more there than what we hear.
Thank you.
I would like to ask Geeta, since you have had a long, fruitful career, how do you see these conversations around harassment changing from the time you started off till now? And has this Me Too movement made it more open to those conversations?
Yeah, and yes, when I started my career almost 25 years back, we were not talking about it. Everybody was given, because I myself used to work 18 hours a day, and they have been like continuous working even on Sundays. And there will be men folks and women folks, and we were not even looking into a gender bias, and when we all were growing up the company from a 200 square feet company to a 300 crore company. And yeah, the journey took a little long, not like anybody could here expect the figures to grow, but it took us a little longer. But though we were not owning the company, we were just employees of the company. And what mattered to us was work. And we had so much of work on hand, and since I'm from the logistics industry, we used to have only a small airport like the HL airport here, where the flights were very limited. So your window time to do anything was, we didn't have many international flights to come, but then we had this whole lot of exports and imports with a very little windows to do, and we were just looking into work, that's it. But coming in our industry, the Me Too movement is not caught up on the real sense, because probably because we are an established company and we fairly have the old timers still working in the organization, but when we hiring it, we were traditional company when hiring them. So when we hire women, especially of the people which are much younger, who is just millennium kids or whatever you call it, they are in the organization, and we open up to see what they have. Sometimes they have more information, but Me Too women honestly has not, because I meet across the companies and all that. But what I noticed in the factories that I go, there is a clause, there is a posh act which is displayed, everywhere it's said, the do's and the don'ts are said in the factories. But the service industries like us, the inventories are nothing but the people. We are completely a people, we run the organization. We have no other than your, the office automations. So we didn't see that really coming much in our industry.
Thank you.
So yeah, we can go ahead with your question now.
Especially to Monica, I have a question. What portion of your hiring is women, and where do you keep them, since it's a startup and you guys have really grown? Because I was in another conference and I've heard about Denzo's was one of the examples that they set up to say that just watch out these guys, the company that's coming up. And as a customer, you also are a customer of Denzo. You are a HR professionals, right? You're an HR.
Not anymore, but I did do HR for a year and a half.
Okay.
I've moved to a business role.
Okay, you do move to a business. On an HR role, when you hire from a zero-based inventory of people to, you said 300 people, right? You're now. So with this journey of a few months, because you have impacted a huge growth, and what portion of the women you have hired, and you never looked into all this? Did you even think about hiring a woman with the some kind of gender bias to grow your company? So what is the portion of women folks you have?
Right. So it took us, just to correct, it took us 3 years to come to 300. But yes, so I would want to, I think what me and Geeta sort of have in common is firstly, of course, we're women. And secondly, I think both of us have our careers in the logistics. The nature of logistics management, we are hyper-local and to export goods, right? So, and as you say, it is male-dominant. I will agree that it's a male-dominant area, space. But, and we've been really trying hard and struggling, and we want women to join us, but so I think sometimes, we've tried a lot to sort of create diversity, but I will have to face the reality and say that maybe 25% is the composition. 25%
Very good. 25% is still.
But no, in our sense, I think it's very less. I mean, as a product, we are very aware that our users make up a lot of women, and which is why we wanted to reflect that within the organization. So from the leadership, it's always been a point that's driven home that we would want women to run the organization where the end users are largely women, right? But yes, this is an ongoing effort, and we're still looking for it. Thank you.
So I've got a question for Arun. In a multinational setup, the HR department, you're the HR department. So, what are the checks and measures which is typically taken at three levels? One at an entry level where you hire people, at a mid level where you are engaging with people, and at a senior level, these kinds of stuff are what I've noticed is more. I would not say prevalent, but more gets publicized at a senior level. At a junior level or mid-sized level, it does not come out in the open so much. So, how do you manage third level? I think that's the most sensitive part of it. But anyway, if you can just touch upon the first two as well.
So I would completely agree with you in the sense that it's the mid-level where we have a challenge. Because at an entry level, thankfully, we have equal number of boys and girls graduating, almost equal level. If you look at engineering space, in certain states, the number of girls graduating is higher than the boys who are graduating. So there we don't have a challenge. We have a excess or supply is an excess. So and in the middle level, what happens is, for good or bad, I will borrow Indra Nui's statements here that this now. So they are, especially at in our organization, many other organizations, what we do is we enable the lady employees to that aspect not become a hindrance. For example, to have a crash in the same building or within about 3-kilometer vicinity, so that the kid is close by. To help and have training programs for the team members to tell them that, listen, your colleague for the next 2 years might need some of your help, to take care of her kid. So please extend that help. Provide them for flexible work hours, work from home options. These are things that we do. Also, when we did our internal survey, what we found out was many a time with lady employees at that stage, especially the management, they don't have enough role models to look up to, and to aspire that if she can do, so can I. So what we are doing is, one, we are asking the senior employees to take up mentorship programs for these mid-level employees. Also, for women achievers to come and have lecture series once a month or so with the employees. So those are helping. And at the senior level, at the leadership level, like rightly said, it might be either for goodwill or out of genuine effort. Almost all organizations have women leaders at their leadership levels. But yeah, I would agree that it's the mid-level where organizations have a real challenge.
Thank you, everybody. So the next round is where the moderator gets to ask questions. So each of you will have one question, and then we'll open it to the audience if they have any question. So if they don't have, again I'll come back to you. Again, you'll have 2 minutes to answer each of the questions. So my first question is for Arun. There is a survey which Ernst & Young conducted, and he said 38% of the women have confirmed that they have been sexually harassed, and the IT and the banking sector are in the top. But the most interesting point is that 70% of women said that they do not report the sexual harassment because they are afraid of the consequences that will happen to them. What do you think will bring these corporate women, who are already empowered to a large extent, to come out and make their voices?
That again is a very real world challenge, where even though companies have internal complaints committees, they have a SPOC, they have your HR, your manager, you have online trainings, you have live trainings to educate the employees enough. There is some stigma associated with it still, and employees hesitate from going and reporting. That is again where I feel movements like Me Too and social media to a large extent helps. Because if someone puts up a post on one social media channel quoting this organization, it could cost heavily to the organization. So also why I asked Geeta earlier was, there is a lot more openness to these discussions. I can't see a discussion like this happening, let's say 3 years back or even 4 years back, where now that it has become a talking point, slowly and steadily, I think people will be more open to talking about this. And it also, moments like this will also help in making all of us more aware. We'll be watchful of how conversations take place, how behaviors take place. People know that consent is important. You know, just because you are in a position of power or you think you can get away with it, you can't do and say things which are not acceptable. So, through continual conversations, discussions, and communication that this forum is there, I think slowly and steadily we will.
I have another question for you, but I'll come back to you later. This is for Monica. So, Monica, there is a very different culture that exists in the startup, and that has been spoken about much while this discussion has been going on about it. It's called the bro culture. So where people, know that somebody has committed the offense, but still don't speak up about it. Probably because the whole setup is, closely knit and everybody works together. And losing out one person might be a challenge. So, do you think the existence of a bro culture is a huge harm for the people who are harassed? It's one of the reasons why they don't get justice.
Okay, so I would say that culture will lead to what you said. So I think startups or any organization should sort of strive to just have an us culture, a human culture. Just please remove notions of like gender and you think, and this includes man, woman, LGBT, whoever. I think that's irrelevant, right? Also, interestingly, when there is conversation about diversity, I would rather look at diversity in terms of the skill sets that you do. Diversity should be in that aspect. Diversity should be in terms of, you need to be diverse personalities, you need to be diverse in skill sets, so that you don't fall into like a group thing and it just sort of, there's loggerheads, not loggerheads, but you just sort of feel stuck as an organization or stagnant, right? I think that's what you need to try for, rather than looking at what gender, what's the percentage, what's the number of people. That's something I'm not pro. I would rather look at the personalities or the skill sets that you're bringing on. We should have people from different subjects. We should have people from a background of philosophy and engineering. Right? That's what diversity to me largely is. So yeah, and I may be a minority here, I don't know, but I haven't faced this in my startup. We do have enough space to actually voice out any discomfort that we might have faced. I've seen to like a couple of very small instances I voiced out myself. So that's something that I can say. Maybe a minority, maybe I'm in a bubble, but this place doesn't exist. That's all that I'm saying.
Thank you, Monica. Now that we are speaking about us culture, and I guess that she's also echoed the same thoughts that it should be, this is a human movement. So my next question is for you. Since we speak about it as human movement, and this Me Too movement has become more of a women-focused movement, do you think we are doing enough justice to the other genders who are also being harassed. Like, there is nobody talking about the harassment of the other genders. For example, even male employees can be harassed and nobody is even bothered about it. At least women are getting some attention about harassment, but the males and the other genders, the third gender, they are not getting attention at all. Is what I think. What do you think?
So definitely, I just told about this in my first part that it is just not a woman movement, it's a human movement. It's a place where it's something which we as human beings, which can be man, woman, and the rest of it, rest of them also are subject to this kind of ordeals sometimes in their life. It can be, it need not be, always an opposite gender oppressing the other gender. It can also be the same gender, oppressing the other person. It could be that the other person is, junior in an organization, or societally weak, or economically weak, anything. But this is definitely something which happens between somebody who is strong and somebody who is weak. I think gender is just not relevant in this case. It's just that just few of the people who have come out in the open in the media are women, and it has sort of become a majorly Me Too movement of women. But I think you need some drivers in a social movement. Women being a driver in the social movement has actually helped the movement. Imagine a man coming and telling something like this wouldn't have gathered so much of steam as it has gathered now. So I very strongly feel that while the women are the driver of the movement, it is going to cleanse the social system as a whole into them.
Yes, I agree. When this whole second wave of Me Too came to India, I also happened to see a lot of men, probably not on Twitter but on Facebook, a lot of stories where men have been harassed as child or as even as an adolescent or even after being grown up, have come out, spoken about their stories. So that way, yes, that's a very good point. Next question is for you now. So since my question is very similar to what others had for you. You've been in this industry for 25 years. You see, you have survived a male-dominant industry for so long and emerged strong. Say if somebody has to start in your industry now, at the place where you started, do you think that it has got any better? Or will she have to go through the same kind of struggles?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Me Too movement is for the startup. Absolutely not. The more difficult thing they would be facing is we are being interactive with the government agency on day in and day out. So that is the most going to be. We are going to see like ours is like we have to work with customs. We have to work with the revenue departments. We have to work with the government agencies and all taxations, customs duties, and all that stuff. So the challenge is not about the Me Too movement. The women or the men, anybody can start the logistics industries provided they get proper funding because it needs a lot of funding. And starting it would be that they have to be interacting with several. I think the challenge would be to get the license without paying price. Yeah. Getting your work done without paying. So I think the challenge for anybody, men, women, anybody in logistics field is not about the Me Too movement because it's so much flooded with work out there. You can't think anything else. Then how do you handle the day in and day out of the government agencies and the tax authorities? And you have to constantly pay. There will be disputes about your customs duties when you import. There will be a tariff duties that there will be a difference between what an importer will have to say, what the customs people will say. So those are the challenges that we face, and that is what a bigger challenge would be for any startup or a logistics company. So men or women, it's that. It's not a movement at all.
Okay. Thank you. Audience, you can point it out to anyone you want to ask. They'll have 2 minutes to answer your question. So any questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Abhishek. So thank you for your views. One thing that I find like maybe probably get touched upon by all the panelists is like obviously like Geeta said that your prime focus is on growth and how you sustain your business, and basically that also becomes a reason that you are not really focusing on putting systems in place which takes care of such complaints if they come. This is a problem with startups because they are not able to allocate resources or money or funds to take care of such complaints if they come. So either they do a committee after the complaint has come. So it is basically handled complaints wise and not culture wise. So what do you have to say about that?
See, every organization when they have a startup, they have laws and regulations in place, and they have corporate governance in place. Every organization has certain governance lawfully and within the organization, and the vision for the company from there to 5 years. This thing cannot be hidden, and now that we are seeing this movement, it is important that they should have, the startup company should also have a governance in place. You also should have a frame of behavior cultures, of do's and the don'ts in the company, and it's just not the thing. So they should definitely allocate their governance in place when they're doing a startup. It's like a corporate governance they have. So they should have a governance, that's what I feel. It cannot be written off that, okay, after the situation comes, and even if it's like 10 people in an organization, they should have, now that the movement is catching up, it is going to really define our roles of, just forget about the power plays. We all are going to be defined and work in a form to have a vision where we want to be. That percolates well within the employee and the employer, and have the governance of this POSH regulations or Vishaka guidelines very well when you're establishing a company. And then made a hand circular and give it across to cutting the cross sections of your hierarchy level in an organization. Have that. That's my advice.
I have a follow-up question here. So the guideline says, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act says that even if you have 10 employees, you should have provisions made to ensure that there is this prevention of sexual harassment. But then there again was a survey done for about 600 companies by like I believe, and it was found that only 40% of the companies had these things in place. So even though there is a guideline that's being provided and there are legal frameworks established for any company, it's still not happening. We know that is the ideal situation where it must happen, but it's not happening. For one or the other reason, the companies don't have them in place. So what can possibly be done from a legal framework or from the government or from any governing body to ensure that these regulations are in place and they are being followed?
As far as I know, this 2013 Vishaka Guidelines Act, the implementations are coming very recently now, and it's much spoken about to have these guidelines or POSH guidelines. Implementations for India, for that matter, anything is going to be a challenge, right from a traffic to anything that you are going to go to. If it's one way, we are going to go on that route. Implementation is going to be a challenge in India to have the POSH regulations. I totally agree with you, because POSH itself is too vast a subject, that what it has and what you can implement, what you cannot implement, because they're still complicated with saying that you have to file the reports to district magistrates and all that. They've made it more complicated. What my suggestion is that the implementations may be a challenge. Even at 40%, the number is growing. The number is growing because every other conferences that I'm attending, people who have been hearing about it, and they have later on come when the next conferences are happening, especially the CII has a special, all the associate members and the members has been driven upon the IBAN regulations to say everyone should have that regulation. So even though implementation is a challenge, it will be done over a period. The debatable point is that whether we really can follow those guidelines of going and filing a report, even a nil report, they say even if it's a nil report, you will have to come and file. I think that can be a little simplified and then have the implementation done, but the implementation done will be gradually more. But with this hashtag #MeToo movement coming up. I think this will have to be even more implemented. But I know cases where the labor officers are coming into the office, the regular offices. It's just not factories. It's the office. They can just walk in, and they would like to see that. It has happened to our offices also. They've come and seen that whether we have displayed it. They go suddenly to any of our located office when we are just 5 of us there in that locations. So they've gone there, then we have got the reports that it is not. So I think from government side they are doing it as well. But we as a corporates should make sure that we publicize more and tell people about it and implement it.
Any more questions?
So the interesting part of this is that India has laws for everything which can go wrong, everything, and the implementation happens through social media. That's the basic irony of the entire story. So today we are having this discussion, multiple discussions in the last 2-3 years over Me Too. I think it's a 1-year phenomenon. But the Sexual Harassment Act has been there for as far as I can know as a corporate, and it is mandatory for every organization to display that and have a certain process laid out for that. But it took a social media to actually give push to that act. So yes, we are actually the world is becoming a place where laws are there, social media implements it, hashtags implements that.
Yeah, so on that, we say that although their rules and laws have been existent, but the implementation has been pushed ahead after the movements. Now there is a very tricky part when it comes to corporates. Like when you join, there is a binding contract that says you're not supposed to talk about whatever is happening in the organization to the media, and there will be a media representative and they are supposed to talk. So Arun, how do you think this is happening for the corporate? Say if a corporate woman wants to come and talk about whatever happened to her in her organization, that was acted upon, not acted upon, how are corporates taking?
So, I'm sure all of us know that the reason why any corporate would want a designated person to talk to the media or address the media is because most of them are multinational companies. Even if it's an India-based company, they would want one message to go out. That is what many of our startups learned the hard way when the Me Too movement came out. Right? Some of the startups which are based on entertainment, comedy, they realize that multiple people cannot talk on the basis of an organization. So I don't think any company would actively discourage an employee from talking to the media. They would want that employee to lodge a complaint with the ICC, the Internal Complaints Committee, and if that is not addressed, if it is not taken up, then I'm sure, because by law they can approach the court. Once they approach the court, then it is public information. Then they can go to the media or wherever they would want to. But what I can say is the rationale behind not requesting employers not to go to the media is because they might not have the complete information. The organizations these days are so large and complex. They will have their own processes in place, and unless that person has been submitted to the media, he or she might not be informed of all the ongoings inside the organization. But I agree with you in the sense that organizations shouldn't use that to safeguard only them. The safeguard should be for the employee and the organization as well.
Can I just add on to that? Yeah. So as per the law, what it actually says is that's just fine. Loud enough? Right. So what does the law really say? The law really very clearly says that while the
particular employee can go ahead and lodge a complaint, to the IC committee, that is the internal committee, and at the same time it has a choice. If they are not comfortable to lodge a complaint with the IC committee, they can just on parallel go to the police station. They can definitely go there. At the same time, if they want to, India is a free country, and everything is laid out very clearly in the court guidelines, right? You want to go to the media, you can, but yes, from a corporate standpoint, right? The corporate would have a spokesperson to actually put the right space out to the world, right? But as an individual employee, they choose to pretty much all the corporates definitely, they cannot hold back that particular employee. To the survey that the moderator had actually referred to, that I was really happy to see that particular survey, because as a law, as very clearly Devashish pointed out, we have a law, but how many of them really, are following it? So that was a very good slide, a peek towards how many of them are actually following the law. Because as the law states, every company has to submit, just like how you file returns, how you do your audits. Every company has to submit every year the annual report, right? Even if it is a nil, has to report, right? So, even in the POSH guidelines, it's very clearly saying that it's not just about the reports or how many cases are reported, how many of them are handled, how many of them have been closed on time, so on and so forth. Has this sensitization been happening? And that's one of the aspects that I really like about it. And only if you are talking about sensitization in terms of upping the awareness of your own ecosystem in your company, that will be a healthy space to be in, right? Thank you.
Thank you. I have one last question before we wind up, and this is for the we know there are legal provisions, even though means that they have. But then there is now this social justice that has come. How far and how long can this social justice, help women get some closure to this?
Small correction, it's not only women.
Yeah, right.
It's for everybody. So see, we created social media is an output of the society, right? So today, when 20 years back, we would be probably talking to 10 people. Today we talk to 1,000 people. Only it's the medium which has come out of this. It is, I feel, here to stay. It will keep on coming out or coming back to us in different avatars. But going forward, human beings are, I'm a strong believer of community building. So we live in communities, we build communities, we will die as in communities. So this is a community which has come out with certain structure. It again goes back to say 100 years back when Panchayati Raj used to be there, when we never used to have a country as a whole, a legal system. Panchayati Raj used to govern the social structure, the legal structure of that particular community. This is, I think, in lack of better word, a vigilante, which is vigilante is more of a negative thing, but then this is more of a watchdog of what we want to be, what the society wants to be. You will definitely see that on these social media platforms, negative posts are automatically getting sidelined. People negate them, and positive posts or something which will benefit the society as a whole is getting pushed forward. Me Too is definitely one big push towards that. This is going to stay. I firmly believe in this. Maybe in different avatars, different mediums, but this is going to stay.
Thank you. I believe every global movement that has ever happened on the face of earth has had its own share of shortcomings, including the freedom movement of any country for that matter. They have had their own shortcomings. And that is the case with Me Too movement as well. There was a very interesting coincidence. There was a TED talk by Tarana Burke just a day back. And she says this, it was a very, very powerful and inspiring speech. And she says this I want to leave you with this. So she says, this is a movement about 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys were sexually assaulted every year and carry their wounds into adulthood. It's about the 84% of trans women who will be sexually assaulted this year, and the indigenous women who are 3.5 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than any other group, are people with disabilities who are 7 times more likely to be sexually abused. It's about the 60% of black girls like me who will be experiencing sexual violence before they turn 18, and the thousands and thousands of low-wage workers who are being sexually harassed right now on jobs that they cannot afford to quit. Now, these numbers and these figures and these ethnicities might be very different in our country. She's taking from where she comes from. It might be different, but that doesn't mean that the situation is any different in our country. But as she says, the most powerful movements have always been built around what's possible, not just claiming what is right. And on that note, I leave you to ponder over it. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts. Thank you. And before we leave, we have a little something for all of you. Thank you so much for being very kind enough and coming in here. Thank you.